I suck at jiu-jitsu. How do I suck less at jiu-jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
The diabolical leader of the head
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to episode 207 of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. So today, I have a really good one for you guys. One I've been thinking about sharing since the idea of sharing past interviews and kind of just bringing them back to your attention, kind of talking about what I learned from them, how I applied it, things like that. It's been fun to do that on some of these interview kind of weeks. And so these next couple interviews, I'm going to take you through some of my favorites. Just I'm going to skip a lot of them. There will be some old ones that we'll come back to at different times for different reasons. But for right now, I'm looking at like those first 200 episodes that we did and kind of looking at some things that were really helpful to people that I'm really happy we got to expand upon. And I don't know, just kind of moving forward, seeing things from a different perspective now, looking back on, this interview that I'm going to share with you guys is Ryron Gracie and I, and this was probably 3 weeks into COVID, into the first lockdowns. And so you can really see some amazing perspective from Ryron Gracie in this interview, but you can also, there is this level of understanding about what is going on at the time, not in a sense that he was talking about government and politics or anything like that, but talking about focusing on what was in your control and focusing on when things were in your control and what you could be best doing in the present moment. The conversation that he gives is, I think back to this conversation at the very least once a week. When I'm struggling with these things, I think back to this conversation constantly. When I'm struggling being present, when I'm struggling being in the moment. But even as a competitor, when I look at how much I've applied these thoughts on just being in the moment and understanding, as simple as weird as this sounds, understanding what the present even is and how to handle the present has helped me so much as a competitor. I'm going to share that with you and share those ideas at the very end of the episode on how this episode can help you not just as a human, but as a competitor. And but the last thing I'll say about this is I shared with you guys last week what I consider my favorite episode of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show, that interview with Kenny Florian. And people always ask me, hey, what was your favorite episode of the show? And it's pretty much always that interview with Kenny Florian. And I told you guys why. It was more of the experiences that came with it and less about the actual interview. Even though I loved the interview and loved how it turned out, it was so helpful to me. But nobody ever asks me what I think is the best interview that we've ever done in the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. And of course, beauty is always going to be in the eyes of the beholder. It's always going to be me looking and going, well, I think this is the best. I think that, this is the best, but I'm really thinking that because it was probably the most helpful for me. And so I'm sure you guys have different opinions on what the best interview is, or a lot of you probably do. But for me, at the time, in the middle of the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, when focusing on things in your control and focusing on the present moment were not something I was caring a lot about. I was thinking so much about the future. What does this mean for me? My gym is finally in a place where things are growing, and I was finally getting to this point where I was supposed to succeed, and I could be looking at the past. I could be looking at the future. Well, what am I going to do? My future was planned. And there were so many times that, hey, you only have today. You only have this right now. This is the only guarantee. And having that thought process back for me really did help me stay, relatively sane through the entire pandemic. And so I thought I would share these thoughts with you, especially since these thoughts aren't as heavy now. They're a lot less to think about now, but they are still just as true and just as valuable now. And so, I guess without further ado, let's move into this month of revisiting and look at the next episode I need a good name for when we do I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show archives. How about I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show archives? Enjoy this next episode of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show archives with Ryron Gracie. And don't forget, at the end of this episode, I'm going to have a little thought for you guys, especially the competitors, especially the people that want to learn to compete. This is a mindset that's really, really helped me. And the reason I'm sharing it today is because it's kind of a preface for the episode we have coming out on Thursday, which is the 10 commandments of jiu-jitsu competition. I have competed, I should have told you, had the number on the top of my head, but I've competed well over 10 times in the last 18 months. And I have competed, I think like 6 or 7 times in the last 3 months. I think I might have even competed more than that. I've competed a lot lately. And so I've learned a lot. And I wanted to just share a lot of the little thoughts that I've had with you guys in one whole episode. And so I'm just going to highlight the 10 things that I think are important to know about jiu-jitsu competition. Some are for spectators, some are for people that are, teammates, some are for coaches, and then of course some are for the competitor. And it's kind of a mix up, but I think you guys will really like it. And again, that's the 10 commandments of jiu-jitsu competition. Comes out this Thursday. Without further ado, let's move on to this interview, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show archives with Ryron Gracie. All right, we are recording. We're good to go. How are you doing, Ryron?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's been a great morning.
Good. Is everybody healthy with your family right now?
Yeah, everybody's healthy. Thank you. Kids are good. And my wife, the 4 of us, it's perfect. And my brother Henner and his kids, we're hanging out with them once in a while. Not once in a while, every other day almost, it seems like. Awesome. So it's great. Everyone's healthy.
Awesome, man. What is your schedule looking like now during the pandemic that we're dealing with, and during when a lot of people can't train?
It's a lot less time in a gi, a lot more time with my family. So I've been playing jiu-jitsu with my kids. Now these last 3 or 4 days, we've been doing jiu-jitsu every morning. For the first 3 weeks, we didn't really do anything in terms of jiu-jitsu, very rare, once a week. But now I got a little chart for them, and we're playing, 20, 30 minutes every morning. But I'm just at home, and lots of great conversations with my wife. And then when it comes to jiu-jitsu, we have our webinars. We're doing live webinars for all of our Gracie University students around the world, which has been fun. We do one for kids, and my brother and his wife do one for Women Empowered, and then we do one for all adult students, from 12 to 80 years old, which is fun to do every Saturday. It's probably the best part of the week because we get to share our passion. So it's been very enjoyable.
That is awesome. That's really cool. So just while we're on it, while it's on the top of my head, this is something I wanted to ask you at some point, but it seems like every time I've listened to you on podcast, I've watched you on video, every time something could be negative, you have a really good way of finding the positive out of it. Is there ever times where you get discouraged with things and you have to kind of fight your way out of that discouragement to find the positive?
Yeah, finding the positive sometimes takes more time, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's for sure possible, yes, because you could be too caught up in what you wanted. You had your expectations, and because they're not being met, because you're holding on to your past expectation and it's not matching reality, you can stay in that for 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days. And I feel like that's that bounce back factor. Like, how quickly can you bounce back to the present moment? How quickly can you bounce back to how amazing life really is? And this is true even for people who just lost their jobs and who are having a hard time paying their rent during these times. Your life is still amazing. You're still alive and you're breathing, and there are ways for people to help you pay your rent, whether that's the government or you just not paying, and then go live with somebody during these hard times. And things can, put it this way, my father always said things could be much worse. And sometimes we just forget. It's easy to lose touch with how good things are. So the bounce back, how quickly after I'm feeling angry or sad or frustrated, can I kind of recalibrate myself to say, you know what, hold on. I might have just lost X amount of money, or I might have just lost this relationship, or this person in my life is no longer talking to me. But hold on, I still have this, and this, starting with my health and my eyesight, you know what I mean? And the people who do still care about me. So
that's really cool to see that, but kind of also hear that you do struggle sometimes just finding, as you put it, finding that time. It takes longer. You didn't say like, yeah, I'm stuck in a rut, or it's negative. Even you turned being discouraged into a positive light.
Yes. And one of my friends once said to me, he said, his name is Ron, and Ron explained to me that once you go from a very difficult moment in your life to then getting out of that difficult moment and getting back to peace and some kind of a harmony and balance in your life, remember what you just did. Never forget, and you can tap back into that. So the next challenge you have 2 days or 2 months down the road, when you're having a difficult time, you just tell yourself, well, I've had these before. I've had difficult times before. And I know that I can make it out of these difficult times. And it was a similar feeling that I had. Now, it's almost like my wife explains that when you give birth to a child, 6 months, 7 months, 10 months later, you forget how difficult it was just so you can do it again. So when I think about how people have challenges in their lives, sometimes we forget how difficult things were. But it's not to our advantage to forget fully, because if there's one thing we can guarantee is that life will forever throw challenges at us. So when they come again 6 months later, we say, hey, hold on. Have I ever been in a situation this challenging? And the answer is yes. And if it hasn't been that challenging, let's say this is the most challenging thing of your life. Great. This is the next opportunity for you to see what you're capable of in terms of recovering and coming back like never before.
That's excellent. That's jiu-jitsu, man. That's when you're in bottom of mount and you're thinking that same thing, like, oh, this is horrible, but I've been here before. I know how to handle this. I know how to deal with this. I know how to make it through.
And then once you handle it enough times, you no longer begin your problem solving with, this is horrible. Because even beginning by saying, oh, this is a horrible situation, you're already at a disadvantage versus saying, okay, I'm in a situation that is frustrating. You're being very factual. I'm in a situation where I just lost, $5,000, and I need that $5,000 to pay for this month's expenses. So if you talk like that, then you're being a little more impeccable with your word, versus saying this situation is horrible. Because it's like the mount. If somebody mounts me, I can say, yeah, this is the worst place to be. Or I can say, hey, I am on the bottom. The person on top has these few attacks that they can go for. And if it's a street fight, they can punch me and I can't quite punch them effectively. But I have some tools. I have some techniques on how to get out of here. Let me try them. Which one makes sense first? And then you go from there.
That is so perfect. That is so dead on. I think a lot of people right now are really struggling with that. They're looking at, obviously the pandemic that people are going through, the sickness that people are dealing with, maybe in their families, or just their businesses. Maybe they're not affected physically, but their business or their job is very effective. I think it's really important for them to be able to find that. It's hard, even for myself, it's very hard sometimes to always look through and see what we've dealt with bad things in our business before, and we know how to handle them, and we can grow from these things, and those bad things are what has put us where we're at. But two, I think it's really important to think that, to think that, we can get through this because we've dealt with that before. I know I kind of said that the same way twice, but.
And the thing is this, it's almost like no matter, you can't not get through it. Now, how you end up on the other side varies.
Mm-hmm.
Like if tomorrow I get the virus, I'm going to get through it. Now, I might end up dead. I might end up very sick for the next 4 months. I might have to have a surgery and have to remove something, and now my body's forever been changed. But I'm going to get through it. Now, the same goes for a position in jiu-jitsu. If somebody is attacking me, if I get in a street fight, I'm going to get through the fight. The fight will eventually end. It could end with me being very seriously harmed, or it can end with me defending myself, or me breaking the person's arm and putting them to sleep, or whatever. So you can't not get through it. And all we can do is do our best to get through it in the way that is, I guess, best for us, right? We want to be healthy at the end of any challenge. We want to have mental, right, sanity. We don't want to get through a challenge and be crazy and be very frustrated and distraught. We want to have peace of mind after a challenge that we're presented. So I've always told people that, for example, before difficult things happen to us, I feel like there's value in talking about difficult things. So I have not contracted the coronavirus from what I know of, right? I feel great. But if I contract the coronavirus, I'm going to isolate myself. I have a room where I'm going to lock myself in the room with the bathroom, and I'm going to do everything. I'm not going to touch or talk to anybody that I don't need to. I'm going to quarantine myself from my family. I might even have them leave and go stay at my brother's house, and I'll stay alone. And I'll have a way to call for help when I need help, whether it's medicine or food or water. And I'm going to go through this. So, and I'm going to drink and eat good foods and take care of myself and have positive, and be optimistic. And I'm going to make it through the coronavirus. If I get it, I'm going to defeat it. So that's how I think. I got this. I can handle this. And if that is my mindset, if it happens that I get it in 2 weeks and I'm on the ground shivering up, even though I'm in pain and I'm crying, I'm still like, this will pass.
That mindset that you have is really, it's great to even listen to hear you talk on things. Actually, before, in preparation for this podcast, my dad and I were in the car and we listened to like 3 different podcasts that you were on and just laughed the whole time. Man, that's such a good statement, such a good, just nugget. And it really seems to come from your perspective, your mindset. And it brought to my mind the question, where do you feel like that mindset kind of comes from or had come from?
Yeah, I remember my grandfather telling me, he said, if somebody comes into my home, this is when I was probably 19 years old, he told me this. If someone comes into my home and attacks my family and I'm not here, let's say he assaults somebody in my family, and then he runs away. And somebody calls me the next day and says, hey, the guy who assaulted your child, is over here at this restaurant. I see him. And it's 15 minutes from my grandfather's house. My grandfather said, I won't go after him. I'm not going to go after him anymore. And what he's telling me is that he was explaining that he wants to be present moment. If somebody walks into my home right now and I'm with my kids and tries to attack my children, I'm going to get between my child and that attacker. and I'm going to defend my child and do what I have to do to neutralize that threat. But so present moment, if the person attacks and leaves, then my energy is better spent comforting my family. So if tomorrow my wife says, hey, I'm going to leave you, I'm going to divorce you, I don't want to be with you anymore, and I thought this through and I'm done with you, my energy is better spent working on myself and being a fair and respectful person towards her as a friend, no longer as a husband and wife. And you see, almost like accepting the new reality. So people often don't accept the new reality. So if I contract the coronavirus, that is the new reality. For me to be angry and very angry and sad and frustrated that I'm not in my healthy state is not me giving energy to that moment. Right now, my body is in trouble. My body needs me to rest. My body needs me to take care of it. And my body needs me to believe and to be strong and believe that my body's capable of getting past this. So it's very present moment to moment, day by day living. And it's very easy to get caught up in, what we want to be doing. And so many people right now are losing money. I don't know anybody who's not losing money, mm-hmm. Right? So everybody's losing money. And it's easy to stay in the fact that, I would have made $3,000 more last month, $5,000 more, whatever it is. And I didn't make that. It's easy to be back there in what I would have made. Or right now, I'm still able to make $1,000 a month or $800 a month, even though I might be getting support from someone. I'm still able to have food on my plate. And this is amazing because I'm able to give my body nourishment. You see that? So Right now, what is good about right now versus what is missing right now? What did I have 2 days ago or 20 days ago? Or my girlfriend left me, during this pandemic. And now I'm by myself. And oh my gosh, I miss her so much. And life is so difficult without her. Or she left me, but I'm by myself. And now I have time to myself, to do myself, to do that which I want to do. And I have interest, whether it is read this book, whether it is learn something online, right? Or practice something at home. So what can you do right now, this second?
How do you use that mindset, like with the future? Because we kind of talked about the past of, like accepting and not looking back and dwelling on the past. How do you use that present mindset? And do you look to the future? And if so, how much?
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that I do look to the future, and there are some times where it makes sense to look to the future. Like I want to have, 2, 3, 4 months of rent. I'm sure everybody in the world sees value in having 2, 4 months, 6 months of rent always in their savings. That is looking to the future. That is planning for the future. Now, as much as there's beauty in planning for the future, I want to have food for the next 5, 7 days in my house for us to eat. That's future planning. The truth is that there is no future. There only is right now. I have no idea. I could end this call with you and get in my car and get hit by a semi and die. Do you understand? So to spend too much time and energy dwelling in the future can potentially keep me from living in the moment. And there is no doubt that is happening all over the world, where people are, because, my partner is not doing this or that, I have an energy towards them, which is an energy of resentment. And then therefore, I don't just appreciate their presence right here and right now. And so, but again, if you like someone like Eckhart Tolle, who I like a lot, in the book, The Power of Now, the only moment that exists is right now. which if you think about it, there has never been any moment except for right now. Now there is a new right now. Every second is a new right now. And that's important. And when you really sit with this moment right now, there's a story in one of his books that talks about how the Buddha holds up a flower, or I think it's a flower, and he asked another one of the monks to look at the flower and ask yourself, what is missing in this moment right now? Like right now, between you and I, we're here looking at each other, talking to each other. What is missing right now? This 1 second, but nothing. But if you stop and you think about your bank account and think about how in 3 or 5 years, something like this might happen again. And or your job, or you don't have a job that gives you the security to where something like this or worse happens again in 5 years, your job won't take care of you, or you won't be able to still, have an income. So in that case, right now, what's wrong is you have a bad job, you don't have enough money in the bank account, or your relationship that you have with your partner is not good for X reasons. So your mind can think of many things that are wrong right now, but erase all of those and just the actual right now, like I have air running through my lungs, blood flowing through my body, which is oxygen flowing through my body. I had breakfast. There's food in my stomach. There's no hunger. I have no hunger. You see that? I can see you. I can smell this room. Life is amazing.
That's really good. Do you okay? You mentioned the power of now. Are you a big reader?
I'm not a big reader. No, I've read like 7 or 10 books, like serious books that I've read. And then I have another 4 or 5 books that I've read on audiobook. Like The Power of Now, I've been through it in audiobook like 4 or 5 times, 6 times. It would just play almost like background noise when I would do long drives, and I would half listen. And even when you half listen, these nuggets, these things are said to where you have to almost stop the audiobook. And you could drive for 30 minutes just thinking about this flower and how life is amazing. And how if put it this way, if I could just do one thing every day, 25 times a day, every hour, 24 times a day, or when you're awake 12 hours a day, I'm awake 12 hours a day, let's say. If I can remind myself of one thing, it is that to stop and think about that flower. Whether that flower is watching my child play with Legos, just sit and watch my child play with Legos, or sit in an empty house with let's say everybody goes to my brother's house and I'm alone, and sit in an empty room and how amazing this is. If I can do that every hour and just come to the moment, if I can step into the moment every hour, it would make a huge difference. I don't even do that, but it would make a huge difference in how I feel about myself and my life situation.
That is really interesting. Do you feel like that do you feel like that is something about jiu-jitsu that attracts people? Because jiu-jitsu is something that it's very hard to not be present when you're grappling with somebody, when you're live training. I know you can think differently, but a lot of people, it's almost easier to stay focused because somebody else is pushing you and giving you these different things that you have to solve.
Yeah, you said it's very difficult to not be present in jiu-jitsu. I feel like it is true that when you're in jiu-jitsu, there is a focus and your mind is only on that grapple. It's only with that one person in that exchange. And you're not thinking about, let's say, your bills or your girlfriend who left you or how you hate your boss. But even within that game of jiu-jitsu, it's very, very common where both people are thinking about where they want to be, and they want to be on top of the person submitting them, or bottom of the guard catching a triangle. It's very common to think about what you want to be doing and to lack presence and be thinking about what that person wants and how you can neutralize it. So on a big picture, you are right. We are grappling. We're all right there. But within that grapple, I say people are very distracted. I feel like 95% of people when they're doing jiu-jitsu, what they're thinking about doing and what they're working towards is not what I believe they should be working towards if efficiency and survival is the priority.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to have somebody side mount you, and within the first 2-3 seconds, you start thinking about how to escape the side mount. You see, that is you resisting the position and the moment. Instead of getting side mounted, you're on the bottom and you say, okay, here I am. What can you do to me? And then when they do something and they give you an opportunity, you're so present that you see it and then you escape. But most people begin resisting the position way before the person on top even gives them anything to work with. All the person on top is doing is simply holding. So this present moment jiu-jitsu and being very present, I think can be applied even greater in jiu-jitsu. But you are right, though, that people do appreciate jiu-jitsu for the fact that it does take their minds away from all the other things that life is throwing at them, and it brings them into that one room, and that is a very appreciated part of it.
Hey guys, Josh McKinney here. Just want to interrupt this interview, this interesting interview where you're learning about jiu-jitsu perspective, and share some of my jiu-jitsu perspective with you. And so what's interesting about jiu-jitsu is so many guys, like for instance Ryron Gracie, they will learn jiu-jitsu so well and in such a way that they can apply those principles and those ideas to life. And we kind of have a secret name between me and one of my black belts, Bionic Rob, of what this lens looks like and why that happens. But I promise you, to get to that point of maybe philosophically being able to explain life through jiu-jitsu's eyes and jiu-jitsu's lenses, the best way to learn that is to truly understand jiu-jitsu. The best way to be able to apply jiu-jitsu to life is to truly understand jiu-jitsu. And I want to give you guys the opportunity to do that at a level that you never have had the opportunity to do it before. And I want to give you guys that opportunity completely free with my ebook, The 3 Lenses. So what The 3 Lenses is 3 perspectives on learning jiu-jitsu. And I am of the belief now that if you were to understand all 3 perspectives, live in, train in all 3 perspectives, you will find a 4th secret perspective. And we're not there on the 3 Lenses ebook yet, but for you right now, if you want to be in the present moment and you want to make a decision that will help you in the future, read the 3 Lenses ebook. It is absolutely free. It is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com/3. And again, it is totally free. Read my last ebook. I promise you, it will give you jiu-jitsu perspective that you never knew you needed, and it will help you get better so much faster at our art. And that's all I have for you guys. Let's get back into this interview.
And kind of on that note, and this is specific to you, when you had your match with Andre Goval, you seemed to do that. You seemed to not fight. Basically, you seem to not fight the positions that you shouldn't be fighting or the things that you shouldn't be fighting. You were very, and obviously that submission only rule set assisted that. It's not a points competition where if you are in side control, you have to fight to get out. It was, you were in side control and you basically did, without verbalizing it, say, okay, let me see what you have from here.
Yes.
And that was really interesting.
Yes. I feel like it's the only way to go. And I feel like I told my brother the other day, we were talking about this during our webinar, and I explained to him, I said it to the camera, I said, every single position, whether I mount on you, I'm on top, or I'm on the bottom, the feeling is the same. The feeling inside of my body is the same. Even if I'm training with, who knows, Michael Bisping, you know what I mean? Or some random MMA fighter or competitor. If somebody side mounts me and we're grappling, the feeling is not a feeling of, oh, darn, oh, man, this is horrible. The same way, if I'm on top of them, the feeling is not, yes, this is amazing. This is the most, this is the best thing that could possibly happen to me. The feeling is somebody's side, I'm on the bottom. Okay, what are we going to do now? And then if I'm on top, okay, what's he going to do now? What am I going to do now? What's going to happen? And the same goes for if I lose $5,000, $10,000. The feeling is not, oh my gosh, this is horrible. The feeling is, wow, I lost $5,000, $10,000. And okay, how can I reposition myself? And then if I win $5,000, $10,000, the feeling is not backflips and celebration. The feeling is, wow, I won $5,000, $10,000. Okay, where am I going to place this? What am I going to do with this? You see that? It's very similar. You can't even, the energy is almost identical. Receiving and losing the money. And when you meet a woman, a girl, you have this girlfriend, it's the most amazing girlfriend ever. If that is the energy, then what happens when she tells you, 2 months later that her ex-boyfriend really misses her and she misses him and they're meant to be? And now it's equal amount of pain. So let's try to keep everything as, I guess I want to say almost neutral. Now, neutral doesn't mean we can't be excited and we can't feel pain. It's okay if someone leaves you or you get hurt to feel pain. And it's okay to be very excited, but just to be aware of it, because sometimes that excitement, it goes so far. And when you go so far with the excitement beyond like a genuine, like the initial response to meeting someone, there are feelings when you meet a new person. There's feelings in your body and you can't stop those. Those are natural. But when you run around telling all your friends how amazing this person is that you just met, and then later they leave you, now you're ashamed, you're embarrassed. So be very, just be cautious of how you talk about your experiences, how you live your experiences.
I talked with one of my friends. Oh, go ahead.
Do you have a girlfriend?
I have a wife, yes.
You have a wife? Oh yeah, I see your ring right there, you're married. So you have a wife. And like, how amazing is your wife?
She is the best.
She's the best. She's the best. But you could not have a wife in a year. One of my best friends just got divorced 3 months ago. I was at his wedding 5 to 6 years ago. It's great. Now they're divorced. So as easily as you get married, it's almost like I feel like you can't get married unless you're ready to be divorced. Because that would be dangerous. That would not be, that's like saying you can't, just like you can't do jiu-jitsu, you can't tap somebody out if you're not ready to get tapped out. You can't be a soldier and go to war if you're not ready to die. There's a certain acceptance. I'm sacrificing my life for my country, for our freedom. If you say, I want to go to war, but listen, I don't want to be put in harm's way. If there's a risk of me dying, I don't want to do it, then that's not for you. And relationships are falling apart everywhere, and you can't take a job working for a company if you're not ready to lose that job, because nothing is guaranteed. And yet everybody's, willing to take, But when you start losing things, all of a sudden your life's falling apart. And it just, be aware of that. Bring attention to this. You've been taking your whole life, and now all of a sudden the earth, the world is taking back, and you're losing now. And this is part of it.
That I was kind of, one of my friends and I have this conversation a lot similarly when it comes to people being overly into politics. Because if one side is in office and you have this feeling that because they're taking care of me, now my business can do good, we know from experience 4 to 8 years, a different side is going to be in office. And if that person was the reason that your business was successful, the person with the opposite beliefs is going to be the reason that your business fails.
Yeah. At least it discourages you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is actually the beginning of the failure.
Yes. And so, in this, just kind of shifting just a little bit, I'd start this thought out by asking you, do you feel like you are still after, how old are you?
38.
Still after 38 years, I'm assuming you've trained the 38 years that you've been able to walk, that you've trained jiu-jitsu. Do you still feel like you progress at jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, actually, I feel like I'm the best I've ever been. I have no doubt that, 5 years ago, in terms of my physical, attributes, maybe I was, 3 years ago, a little bit stronger, a little less prone to injury. I find myself today, like when there's 30 minutes of sparring, I'll spar for 20. And the last 10, I'll just stretch. But I feel like, I remember rolling with my dad one time a couple years ago, where him and I were rolling, and we hadn't rolled for I don't know, months or a year. And I rolled with him, and I'm like, man, I couldn't believe how difficult he was. I had forgotten, he was 50, I don't know, 8 years old or something. And I'm like, are you kidding? He was too good. I was beyond impressed. But then again, not impressed, because he's my father and he's, my gosh, been doing this forever. And he's Gracie's son. You know what I mean? So it makes perfect sense. But it was just a pleasant reminder. I was pleasantly surprised that even me at 36 years old, this guy is stopping me in my tracks. So when I think about me progressing, there's different ways to progress. And obviously most people think of progressing as, who are you beating on the mat? Are you beating more people? And that's it. Are you getting beat, and who are you beating? But that's not the way that I measure my progress. That is one way that I measure. So the answer is yes, I'm still progressing. And there are many ways that I measure my progress, which allow me to know that is actually true.
What do you feel like you do now at 38 years old differently, and maybe even better than you did at 15 years ago, 23 years old?
Yeah, so put it this way, because there is no doubt that I have amazing endurance, but there is no doubt that I can roll for 30, 40 minutes, and then I might feel a little bit, a little more tired, or a little ache in a shoulder or something. And, as we exercise, we keep those things strong, and as we stretch, we can prolong even those things, and as we take care of our bodies. But I find myself doing a lot less, but accomplishing the equal amount of success. Now, it might not be submissions, how I was accomplishing them 15 years ago, but I'm watching people burn their energy. I'm watching people put themselves into submissions, exhaust themselves, and make mistakes, and lose their balance, and lose positions. And they're doing that because I'm doing so much less. I have really simplified. It's always been simple, but I've simplified it even more. And I've really began to understand how everybody who I touch when I'm doing jiu-jitsu wants to be somewhere else. Everyone's trying to move and progress and get to the next position. So I know that wherever we land, whatever position that we're in, the person that I'm going against wants to be somewhere else. And because I understand that, I am now behaving in a way, I'm implementing strategies that are specifically designed to stop people from progressing. So stopping people's progress has become the new submission for myself in the past, I would say 2-3 years, maybe 4 years. Whereas before, I was not so concerned with what people wanted, and I was more concerned with what I wanted and with the fact that I can take what I wanted at any given moment. Whereas now, someone lands in my guard, and there's so much joy in watching them try to pass my guard for 30 seconds, a minute and a half. And I just delay them. And then I might eventually allow them to pass. And then from the side control, they want to mount me or they want to submit me. And I delay them for 30 seconds, a minute and a half. And then I might allow them to mount me. And they are nonstop fighting. And then once they mount on me, they want to submit me. And I delay their submissions for a minute and a half. And then do I allow a submission? Many times I do, because most people are my students. So it's just helping them. But I'm almost like I'm like the cat playing with the mouse. I'm just playing with people. Now, of course, when I'm going with somebody who is very advanced, another black belt or my brother Henner, then obviously things change. And my ability to delay him and to defend against him is not as great. And there's a very good chance that he can break through my defense once in a while, and that's okay. But again, stopping progress has allowed me to still be very, respected and very effective on the mats against 23-year-old black belts and 25-year-old professional athletes while I'm 38 years old.
And I've gotten to roll with people that feel that like, without wasting a lot of energy or almost no energy at all, they make you waste a lot of energy or make you fight really hard in things. And you find yourself, even if you have great cardio and great endurance, because you're trying the same stuff over and over and you're wearing yourself out, you get exhausted. And then if they really did want to, that's when you would be in a lot of danger of getting finished or just being put in really bad positions.
Yes, they figure something out. There's those people that can do very little to make you do a lot. That is the secret.
What do you feel like is the best way to start to get to that point?
I think the most important understanding that you have to get to that point is you have to have an understanding of the risks that exist in every single moment. So people often believe that their job, that the responsibility at any given moment is for them to submit their training partner. You shake hands and you feel like the final objective, that's what I should say, is to submit your training partner. Now, if that is your objective, if you're on the bottom of side control, how much time are you going to spend down there? What do you think?
I think it depends on who I'm going with.
I understand, but if your objective is to submit somebody, is to get the submission, and you're in the bottom of side control, how much time do you want to spend in the bottom of side control?
None. I want to get out if I'm there.
There you go. The least amount of time possible. Now, how likely is it that you find yourself in the bottom of side control and you are trying to escape when it isn't quite the right time to escape? I would say 75% of the time, people are trying to escape when they should not be trying. Maybe 85% of the time. Because people on top often hold and they just control. So I guess what I'm saying is that we need to become more curious about what can happen to us, how somebody can beat us, how someone can submit us, how they can sweep us, how they can escape our control. Let's be more curious about what someone can do to us at any given moment. Be more curious about that, learn that, understand that more than you are curious to, not curious, but excited to submit someone. Because when you put beating somebody as the priority, then you put your understanding of every single position second. But that's not how I believe we should approach this. Your understanding of every single position should be the priority. That is why we practice. Now, part of understanding the bottom of the guard is understanding how you can submit somebody. The other part is how you can off-balance somebody. The other part is how you can not get punched, how you can survive someone's punches, or how you can control someone and keep somebody in your guard, or how you can conserve energy. You see that? So there are many parts of bottom of the guard, but yet most people, all they care about is the part that allows them to finish the person that's inside their legs. And then now you have pretty much, it's almost like if you have 5 days in a week, Monday through Friday, you're spending every day going for submissions. Where why not spend a whole day just observing people's balance and how you can off balance them? And when you do this, now your understanding of jiu-jitsu grows in a more balanced manner. And this is what happens, that you get people who've been training jiu-jitsu for 8, 10 years, 15 years training jiu-jitsu, black belt from Dubai or from the UK, and I side mount the black belt. And the guy tries to escape my side mount for a minute straight, fighting, twisting, turning, bumping, bridging. When I see that, I only think one thing. He has not dedicated that much time and energy to understanding the risks that are involved in being on the bottom side control. He's unfamiliar, he's uncomfortable. And when you don't, his relationship with the bottom of the side control is weak. And I can see it by the behavior, by the panic. So now how is this person ever going to be somebody who knows how to give this much energy, give very little energy, but yet take a lot of energy from you? There's no way, because they exist in a state of fear and discomfort in a position as common as bottom of side control. You see that? Now, those that understand the bottom of side control is a very common place, and that we hang out here all the time. And this is jiu-jitsu. Those that understand that, and they understand what is possible from bottom of side control, and they can read the indicators that people will give them, they have a little more comfort. That allows them to relax. And then when they relax, now they can do small things to cause their partner to burn more energy from their relaxed state.
That is, I think this is important too for people, especially actually for people that compete. People that compete, I think it's very easy to think that winning in the gym or submitting in the gym translates perfectly to, if I submit this, this person I'm rolling with in the gym, my training partner, then that means I will submit the person that I am competing against. But the truth is, if you don't know, if you are putting winning or submitting over understanding and learning these positions, when you get forced into the position in a competition, which you will, because anyone you're competing against is going to be your level and they're going to be good, what happens is you steal from yourself by not allowing yourself to get better.
Yeah, one of the beautiful things about competition is the unknown. You don't know who you're going to go against, and you don't know where you're going to land. So you don't know how experienced they're going to be, like you just mentioned. So you are correct in that we need to be using our training partners in our own gym to prepare us for the unknown. And that unknown may be that competition, and it may also be a street fight. Because I know with certainty that if I end up underneath someone's side control or under somebody's mount in a street fight, or no, I don't know a certainty, but I very strongly believe in myself and my ability to stay safe from under someone's mount and to escape effectively, successfully. You see that? So, but that is, I only believe that is because my relationship with the bottom of the mount has been, I've invested so much into it.
That's really cool. Okay, so I have just another, it's going to be a change of questions, but this is just more for my curiosity. I think this is less, this one is less about the people listening, but maybe some people will, get excited about it. But when I first met you, I went to a seminar in Destin, Florida. It was a really cool situation. We just saw on Facebook that you were doing it. And my dad and I were both brown belts at the time. And so we called in and, I think we actually extended our stay for one more day so we could go. And it was really, really fun, really enjoyed. And it was two separate seminars. And to start the second one, you're just, if no one's ever been around you, you're just super relaxed, and it's not slap your hands. Okay, guys, let's get into the first move. It was really relaxed, and we were sitting around, and you got on your phone and you said, hey, I have something, and it was the 10 commandments of Jiu Jitsu. And you kind of went through them, and you said, maybe one day I might make this a book or something. And just out of my curiosity, I was wondering if you have written more into those 10 commandments of Jiu Jitsu, because they were really, really good. And if you ever planned on writing it as a book or anything like that.
So I always make little notes and I save them into my phone. And I have not worked on that specifically, right? I look at it here or there, I add one little thing, but nothing in terms of a book. For whatever reason, I maybe I have a little bit of a difficulty starting something, because I feel like once I finish it in 3 months or a year or 4 years from now, I'm gonna have different mindset. So when you put it into a book, I'm a little bit hesitant. So for me, it's less about the book right now and more about the conversations and just allowing my mind to really wrap itself around a concept and just see where my mind takes it. If it's only for me and for, 10 people, a group of 100 people to have a conversation, it's well worth it.
That's cool. And that was just me out of curiosity, because there are certain things that you talked about in it that I still, that was maybe 3 years ago, that I still go back to, and I still think about. And it was the biggest one. And I always think about this is you were talking about basically how is something along how your actions are, they have to kind of match up with what your goals are, what you're trying to do. And you gave some examples in jiu-jitsu, and then you gave, the example of, if I want to have a family, and I want to be a good husband, even though I could be going after young girls, and that could be, I'm like, oh man, this girl's really pretty and I can flirt with these girls. He's like, you said that doesn't show, or that's not reflecting of what my goal is of being a good husband. And you brought it back to diet and jiu-jitsu, and it was something, and I still to this day think about that all the time, because it's just it translates to so many different factors of life.
Yeah, I guess that starts with being honest with yourself, with what do you want. And if I want to be healthy and have a healthy body and live a long life and be able to play with my children and my grandchildren one day, but yet I'm eating junk food. It's not in alignment.
Yeah.
I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm saying that I want to be healthy, but I'm doing this. So I need to adjust something. Stop saying that I want to be healthy, or stop smoking cigarettes. And there you go.
And so for specifically for jiu-jitsu, how would you kind of apply that?
Well, when it comes to jiu-jitsu, if you say that you want to do competition, let's just say, and you want to win a very prestigious competition, then that means that you have to train to be the best in the world in that arena, which means you have to be the most comfortable, and you have to be very understanding of all positions and prepared for all positions, which means that when you train, like you mentioned, at the gym with your teammates, allow yourself, invest in everything that you need to invest in to be prepared for whatever the competition may throw at you. And if you want to be ready to defend yourself for a street fight, but yet you never mention, somebody strangling you, grabbing your throat, or punching you in the face, you never mention distance management and these striking techniques, then obviously you're not doing jiu-jitsu for self-defense. You don't have to fight at 100 miles an hour, but to have the discussions around what may happen in a street fight shows that you prioritize self-defense.
That
to train jiu-jitsu into your 90s, your whole life be around jiu-jitsu and be active as a 70-year-old, a 60, 70, 80-year-old, and yet you're being very explosive and you're putting your body in harm's way and you're being very reckless with how you train jiu-jitsu, it doesn't match. But if you want to train into your 70s and 80s, and yet you're very conservative, you protect yourself, you spar at a very safe speed, you tap early, you don't resist submissions, you don't overreact when you get side mounted, you're observant. You know what I mean? You tap when you get caught, you tap early. When you do these things, that shows, wow, you're protecting yourself. You're thinking long-term jiu-jitsu practice.
I have one of my students, and I think it was last year, the beginning of 2019, I told my students I would send out videos once every week or two, just talking to them all. And I was saying, hey, I think we should all kind of set some goals for our jiu-jitsu. I said they can be with a month. They could be 1 month goal. They could be years. I just think it would be fun. I said, if you guys really if you'd like to and you're doing it, I would love if you shared it with me. And one of my students, who I believe at the time was 58, told me, hey, his name's Bob. And Bob said, hey, Josh, I really want to be on the mats when I'm 65. And he said, that's my goal. And we got to talk about it. And still to this day, and that was 2 years ago, we always will talk, and I'll say, hey, Bob, are you doing everything to stay on the mats till? And he's very honest, and he'll say, oh, I think I shouldn't be doing this, and I was doing bad to it. And it's really cool when you that's one of my favorite goals to hear about for jiu-jitsu, is I just want to keep doing it.
Oh my gosh, that is the goal, because how many people have had goals of becoming world champions, and they became world champions, but then now they kind of they don't do it anymore. Or even MMA fighters, where they make serious money and they get the titles, they might be number 3 ranked in their weight class in the world, and that's not the champion, but it was still, they had a good run with MMA, but they're nowhere near the martial arts practice anymore. Or soccer players who go and they go to the World Cup, but then they retire. They don't play soccer for fun anymore. So there is a beauty in becoming the best at something, but there's a different beauty in simply enjoying something for a lifetime, especially if it can be enjoyed for a lifetime. There are some things that I have to be honest, there are some sports that maybe they're not the kind of sports that you enjoy forever. You simply, like MMA specifically, you don't do MMA when you're 72 years old, but you can be around the martial arts. So there's a chess player that I've talked about before, Josh McKinney. And he, chess prodigy. And he talks about how his passion for chess, passion, chess prodigy, world champion, best in the world, or in his I imagine the world. And then now he doesn't, I don't know if he plays chess for fun.
I was listening to him on a podcast yesterday, and I don't believe so. Everything he is, he gets zoned in on things, and he was, I forget, I think it's called foiling, e-foiling. It's like a version.
It's where you surf. Yes, he told me about it. It's where you surf on top of the water. There's a blade under the water. And you touch the water, but yes, it's a very big passion of his. And I ran into him randomly, and he explained that he does that. He told me that he does that, and he's very much enjoying it. And one day I'll try it myself.
Yes, it seems fun, and it seems like something that he is very interested in.
Yes.
Now,
he's very interested in, and I wonder if he's going to become a competitor in that. And you know what I'm saying, trying to compete in a world championship. And he's a very competitive person, so it's possible. But it's also possible that he just simply enjoys it forever. So for the students out there who do jiu-jitsu, and they see people who do competition around the world, and it's very inspiring, and it makes maybe you want to do competition because you see people doing it, and it's exciting. It's not wrong to want to do competition. Just know that that is a phase of your life that you want to compete. And that what you want is you want to be around an activity that has great energy. You have a great team. Your instructor, your fellow training partners, that's a family that you've created, that you've joined when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And the exercise, your body, you're staying active, you're sweating, you're challenging your mind, and you're putting your body through these physical obstacles. These are the things that, why can't we be around that into our 60s, 70s, and 80s? My grandfather, 90 years old, would ask me to side mount him or to mount him, and we would play jiu-jitsu. And if he can do it up to 90, 95 years old, anybody can do it. And that was his message to the whole world. People would say, yeah, I can't do jiu-jitsu. And he would look at you like, you're confused. You don't even know what jiu-jitsu is if you believe you can't do jiu-jitsu. You have lost sight of what jiu-jitsu is. And maybe you've lost sight because you're looking at people who are out there competing and who are running through people and doing what they want when they want. But that's not jiu-jitsu. That's a part of jiu-jitsu. The answer is absolutely. Someone says, yeah, I'm 44 years old. Man, I can't do it anymore. I'm getting too old. Or I'm 52 years old. No, you're crazy. You're not getting too old. Let me show you, 90-year-old Eddie Gracie would say. And then he would show you how he does jiu-jitsu at 90 years old. You say, you know what, man? Then you have to ask yourself a question. Do you want to be 82, 75 years old, 90 years old, practicing jiu-jitsu like this? Or do you want to be 72, 82, 90 years old, doing nothing, playing bingo? Your body, if you do it, if you ask your body will meet you. You know what I mean? If you work on yourself, your health, and you give your body the attention and the care, your body will meet you halfway. It's capable of much more than we think. And to be able to do the movements, even at a slow speed, into your 90s is more than reasonable if you put in the work now and you get your mind right.
That is really good, Ryron. Thank you for being. Usually I have a finishing question, but we are right at an hour. And
what's the finishing question? Do you have it? What is it?
I do. I usually do. You're good on time?
I want the finishing question, of course.
Okay. So the show is called the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. And so the whole thought process here is we're in a scenario where I am at a Ryron Gracie seminar and I'm a blue belt. And in question and answer, I raise my hand and I say, Ryron, I suck at Jiu Jitsu. How do I suck less at Jiu Jitsu?
So here's how, what is it that makes you say I suck? Right? For example, let's say you keep getting swept in the same sweep every day by the same person 3, 4, 5 times a day. That can give a feeling of I suck. Or worse, my back is getting taken and I keep getting choked 10, 12, 15 times. I suck. So I guess to suck less, if that is you sucking, to suck less, let's consider that sweep or that choke that's happening to you. Consider that you want it to happen to you 3, 5, 20 more times, 100 more times. You get your back taken and you get choked. You get your back taken, you get choked. When you shake someone's hand and you go to spar again, most people, they fight hard to resist their back getting taken. And then when their back gets taken, they fight hard not to get choked. What if you specifically shook someone's hand and you didn't fight too hard to keep your back from getting taken? You just fought like 50%. You just gave a little bit of effort. And then when they got your back, you only fought 50% to avoid the choke. The question is, if you're not too worried about getting your back taken and getting choked, then that means that you're a little more carefree in your approach to that grappling session. And if you're it's a little more lighthearted approach, which means you can bring in a little bit more presence, a little more awareness, a little more attention to what exactly is happening. And the question is, don't try to tackle jiu-jitsu as a whole, like every single position. Think specifically, what specific event is happening that you are frustrated with, that you don't like happening to you, that you're done, that you just can't take it anymore. And allow it to happen, like I said, with 50% resistance, 20, 30, 50, 70 more times. And then as almost from a place of like, you're doing research, you allow it. And then after 10 times, add a little more resistance. 12 times, 15 times, add a little more, a little more, a little more. And then there's no way, it's impossible that you don't begin to suck less. You will get better at not getting your back taken and not getting choked. But you have to shake this idea that getting your back taken is bad and getting choked is bad. You have to shake it and then say, oh, I'm so curious. How am I getting my back taken? And how am I getting choked? And then when you bring that curiosity and that awareness into it, after 7, 10, 20 more times, something's going to happen. You're going to say, oh my gosh, I keep getting choked because I'm trying to escape, remove their hooks and escape back control when I could just be simply covering my neck and standing still. And then when they attack me, they open their hands and there's a window for me to put my back on the ground and escape back control. So become a scientist and put it this way. You should almost be excited. Find an excitement about how you're getting choked. Because whether jiu-jitsu works for you or against you, jiu-jitsu is beautiful. And it's not fair for when jiu-jitsu works against you, meaning someone chokes you, for you to be like, I suck, and so down on yourself. Because when you choke somebody, you feel good. Ha ha ha, I feel good. This is great. It's what's more fair is for you to choke somebody and say, wow, that was a beautiful move. And then when someone chokes you, you say, wow, that was a beautiful choke. How did it happen? Or if you choke someone, how did I do it? So let go of this idea that getting choked is bad and become curious about how it's happening and become a scientist and let it happen 20, 30, 40 more times. And then your understanding of that submission, that position are going to go through the roof.
That is an excellent answer. That is, I've been training jiu-jitsu for 12 years, something like that. And I've trained a lot of jiu-jitsu, but that is probably the best answer that I have ever heard to a question like that. I've never, that perspective is really, really good. That is. So
you've asked the question before many times.
Yes, of course. I would phrase it different, but every seminar I've ever been to, when they would allow for question and answer, I've always asked, how do you get better? How do you get better? And it's always different, right?
Yes.
And that is that.
So caring less. Care less about beating people and not losing. Care less about these two things. And care more about watching and feeling and feel it and understanding and allowing things to happen.
That is a really good answer. Huron, thank you so much for being on my show, man. That really, huh?
You're welcome. I enjoyed it, and let me know, wherever you're going to share this. Like, if you want to share it to more people, I can push it out there a little bit.
Yes, for sure, man. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say to finish?
No, I appreciate you got your black belt. You were a brown belt when I met. Now you're a black belt.
I am a black belt. I got my black belt 15 months ago, something like that.
Great. How does it feel?
Not a ton different. Competing's different. I'm fighting. It's interesting to get to fight people that I watched win at black belt when I was a white belt, when I was first starting jiu-jitsu, and I was getting introduced to competition. And
did you feel like when you were handed your black belt, did you feel like, yes, I super deserve this?
Not really. And
most people say that they don't feel like the moment it's handed to them that they deserve it. But
I thought of it like filling it out. Like, man, I want to fill this. I want to be a good black belt. Like and I have this. Obviously, I've been working towards that even as a white belt. But as a black belt, when I got it, was like, I want to be. I want to fill this out. I want to. I was my coach's second black belt. My dad was his first, and I thought like it's kind of that. You're flying that flag of like, I want to represent this person very well, and I want to contribute to jiu-jitsu the way that it has contributed to me, and that was kind of my thought process with it.
Yeah, so you were working towards getting a black belt your whole life that you've been training, and once you got your black belt, you're still working towards being that black belt.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Me too. I feel the same way. Congratulations, and keep working. There's a lot more work you can do. I've been a black belt since, I was 21 years old, and now I'm 38, and it doesn't stop. And I'm like still like learning, feeling, appreciating. So it will not stop. Enjoy the next 20, 30 years.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, brother. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll hope to talk again soon.
All right, man.
And that is the episode. Like I told you guys, I was going to give you some just post-episode thoughts on this one, and I just wanted to apply this thinking in the competition and in a way that has really helped me. I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler for this episode that's coming out on Thursday. We're going to talk about kind of the 10 commandments of jiu-jitsu competition, and I'm going to kind of just go through this last year of competing and break down what I was doing wrong, what I've been doing right, what's been helping me, and really, as always, break them down in concepts and not just give you really specific rules. And so I think you guys will like that. But the spoiler is I just competed probably between you and I for the last time this year. I doubt that I will do anything else competition-wise. Unless, of course, the phone rings and somebody has a check on the other end of it. But in that, it's given me it's letting me at least try to start reflecting. And I was able to finish this year, but finish the last thing that I had on the calendar with a submission over a really tough guy in Kansas City just a few nights ago. And something that was interesting about it was just the difference in mindset between that and maybe matches that I had a year before. In super fights that I've had a year before where there's a lot of people there, they're all watching you, there's one match going on, there's a lot of pressure. And this little thought, and I always think back to this Be Present interview, this little thought that Ryron Gracie gave on understanding what it means to be present has helped me so much. And I will give you the example. And again, we really just talked about the concept of being present in this episode. And so I want to make sure that we keep it conceptual, but I will give you my specific thing that happened that has been really helpful. And it is this. A lot of times I used to go to compete and I would be like, okay, I'm going to show up at 9 and I'm going to be really pumped up and excited and, have all this energy. And then at, 1 p.m. I'm going to compete and I'm going to dominate, and it's just going to be this great day. Right. And so often you do that. And then even you'll do other things like you'll be getting ready to compete and you'll be thinking about something past the tournament. You'll be thinking about this idea of, like, oh, well, what about this next guy? Because the next guy I have is the number 1 seed. And I hear people talk about this all the time. Oh, the number 1 seed, I've got this guy. Or people like in black belts still do this. They walk up to me and they'll be like, oh, I have Gregory in my division. And I'm like, bro, I don't know who that is. And to be honest, nobody knows who it is. You only know who it is because he's in your division right now. You're giving this guy all kinds of credit because of things that he's done in the past. You're not in the present. Or, for instance, I have Gregory, he's the number 1 seed. He's the best guy in my weight class, and I'll have him second round. You don't. You are only guaranteed this first round. And when you start focusing on old Gregory, you're probably going to lose in the first round. It's not going to matter. Guys that are good focus on the task at hand. And that is the true battle for a lot of people of jiu-jitsu competition. You get worried about getting nervous. The only reason you're worried about that is because you say, well, what if these nerves keep me from performing during my match? That's focus on the future. There is nothing you can do about that. You are not being present. So, next jiu-jitsu competition, try this. Say, when it's time, my jiu-jitsu will be there and I will be ready. Yes, you warm up. I think that there's nothing wrong with having a good warm up for your training. Yes, you do your breathing exercises. You do all these other things that you are supposed to do, that we talk about on the show. You do what works for you, of course. But you don't start to do your breathing exercises 10 hours early. Save that energy. Wait till your 2-hour mark, and then you do your breathing exercises, and that is the next step. But in that moment, when you're doing your breathing exercises, be in that moment. It is so easy to let your focus get out of control. This is another example of doing it. You're competing, and you say, oh no, I'm getting tired. And you let that panic you. So many people do it. They don't even say, I am tired. They're like, oh no, I'm breathing really heavy. Oh no, what am I going to do? That is fear of the future. Because I guarantee you, when you're thinking that, you have enough to fight the next fight. You have enough to fight for the next guard pass, or fight for the next, escape, or fight for the next thing. You're worried about 3 or 4 moves down the road. Well, what if I'm completely gassed? Cross that bridge when we come to it, dude. You're not in the present. You're not in the moment. We can't win if you aren't in the moment. And those are people that struggle with competition anxiety. That is the biggest thing that I have noticed, is they worry about things that are outside of their control, and they worry about moments that are not happening right now. I don't care that you're tired. We have a job to do. I don't care that I'm tired. When you watch me compete, you will go, wow, Josh looks to be in terrible shape. He is gassed this whole time. But that's because I am willing to go, I don't care if I was at 0% and then this guy just thrashes me and beats me by 1,000 points. That's future Josh's problem. Not that I'm going to not pace correctly, but I'm not going to let it in my head that I shouldn't take this guard pass that I see right now because, well, what if I'm tired in the future? Well, I'll be tired from side control. I'll be tired from mount. I'm not worried about those things. I'm worried about right now. When I have a match like I did on Blue Corner, which was this weekend, on the co-main event, we're supposed to be there at 7. I weigh in at 4:30, okay? I weigh in at 4:30, got to be back at 7. I do not compete until like 11 something. How much energy could I have wasted in that time if I was letting myself think about the future, think about this, think about that? all I was doing while we were backstage is being in that moment. You know, maybe it's not the best moment in the world, but it's the only moment I have. And then when it was time to warm up, I warmed up. And I was in that moment. When I was warming up, I was not in, I need to be competing right now. It wasn't time to compete yet. I have to trust that I train in a way that my jiu-jitsu is going to be there when it's time to use it. It's not going to be there because I told myself, in a notebook enough times that it was going to be there. It's going to only be there if I believe that it is going to be there. And then I go out and what's always what we say, just do jiu-jitsu. And to me, that idea of just doing jiu-jitsu is just another idea of being present. I'm going to be in this moment because I don't know what this guy's going to throw at me. I'm going to see if the jiu-jitsu that I know and that I possess and that I have is good enough. Because never am I getting ready to go to the gym on a Thursday night and there's going to be all kinds of tough guys there. Never once has worrying about that throughout my day helped me that night. Competition is the same way. That's what I'll leave you guys with. If you enjoy that thought, especially, be sure to listen to Thursday. I have some really, really good stuff for people that are competing, that people have competed for a long time, that people who coach competitors, and especially for people who have not competed enough. People that feel like, especially like the guys that feel like, I'm a purple belt, but I feel like a white belt in competing. And we will talk about what that means, what that feels like, what that looks like on the next episode of the I Suck at Jiu Jitsu Show. I'll see you guys then. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Hope you guys are being present. And I hope that today's episode helped you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.